I was born in Blackfoot, Idaho. My mother and dad came from Utah. My dad had a sheep ranch. I worked in the fields of everything we ate, we grew. And I was outside working more than I was actually in the house working, because I was kind of a tomboy, and my dad and I got along so well. My father was very loving. I was his favorite, he said. My dad called me Johnny when I was in my overalls, and my name was Thelma in my dresses. My mother had been a school teacher, and I grew up by her side, wiping the dishes and things like that, which we had to do in that day. As I got older, she taught me a lot of cooking. We had to cook in those days in a coal stove. We didn't have electricity to begin with until it was later years that we had electricity. Well, that was a dream for everyone, of course. I had 4 brothers and 1 sister. My older brother and sister were twins. Then I have another older brother, and then myself, and then 2 younger brothers. My favorite recreation was dancing. I had to go into town to dance, but we had dances every Saturday night. It was just a good activity. At that time, they knew nothing about a lot of those diseases that were going around. I lost 10 pounds in a week. I had a tumor and cancer specialist, which they felt was part of this. But actually, all I had was mononucleosis, which they could have done a lot of damage by treating me with radiation. And I had to go 200 miles to get treatments. It was difficult for my parents as well as myself. I had 1 year actually of college, but it was in Pocatello, Idaho. When I was going to school that year, I stayed with an uncle of mine, accounting and bookkeeping, typing. I started working in a bank as a teller, so he wanted me to be his secretary. I did not want to be a secretary. I tried, but I was not good enough that he'd have to hire somebody else, and then they would leave, so he'd take me back again. After being a teller, though, they promoted me to a bookkeeper, so that's what I did for the first several years. Actually, I was married the first time by a young man that's Wallace. Yes, and I had 1 son, Dennis, my second husband, Robert. I hate to say this, but in a nightclub. He was in the Air Force. We had more in common, of course, and we both loved to dance. My husband was training as a manager for Montgomery Ward, and so we traveled, beginning with a small store and then to larger stores about every 2 years until we got to Walla, Washington, and they stayed there 6 years. Now I did, when I was in Walla, went back to work. I had 5 total. 3 girls and 1 more boy. Paula, Carol, Kathy, and my younger boy was Chris. I, of course, enjoyed every minute of it. Even though I worked every day, I sewed too. Even made some of my own clothes. And when the girls were in high school, I made their prom dresses. Well, I progressed because of my work ethic, because I was knowledgeable. I kept getting better jobs all the time. Well, I was an auditor, as I say, which was a good position. Assistant county supervisor. Oh, and also was a wire transfer specialist. They gave me a job. It was called a purchasing agent, and had been a badge job before. So I held that job until we were transferred to San Diego. I was told that I did a better job than any man that had ever done the job, but I would never get the credit because I was a woman. Worked until I was 72 years old, and then I retired. I volunteered in the volunteer office. I wasn't in the actual hospital, Sharp Hospital, whatever job they needed to be done. When he was 59 years old, he passed away from a massive heart attack. So I had my driver's license until I was 95 years old. It was during the time that I was volunteering. In between the times when I had some time off, I would take a week's cruise, or that was when I did all my traveling. It would be hard because I did so many of them. I even went up the Mississippi River shore on a paddle boat. I have 7 grandchildren and 16 great-grandchildren, 100 years old. I would say because I was very active and I enjoyed working, and I'd have to contribute that to it. That's the only thing I can say. I would have done a lot of things a lot differently where I'd have my life to live over again. But at this point, I did enjoy most of my life. It's just my complete life has been good. I never ever expected to be this age by any means. I wouldn't give it up for anything. Going through as many decades as I did, yes. I loved the swing years when you were dancing, and of course every one of them meant something to me. I enjoyed the old music that we don't have anymore. I think I'm most proud of is my family. They have all done very well. I did most everything that I wanted to do.